They say it takes a village to raise a child. And these days, that village could look very much like your local community playgroup. According to our next guest, playgroups play a vital role in shaping the future of our children, offering not only social benefits but economic ones as well. Later, you're going to hear about an amazing impact one playgroup has had in a South Australian community that have been affected by the 2019-20 bushfires. But my first guest today is Craig Bradbrook. He's the CEO of Playgroups South Australia. Craig, hello. Welcome to Life Matters.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for having me on, and all of your listeners as well.
Craig, what's the role of playgroups in giving our children a head start?
Yeah, look, I think they play a fundamental role in giving our children a head start. They provide opportunities across all domains of development. So from supporting children's physical development, from those big body movements, kicking balls around, they're the gross motor skills to, playing with Lego, Duplo, the fine motor skills, and I think ultimately they're a great safe harbour for building those important connections in socio-emotional development and socio-cultural development. And we know also that children attending playgroup will definitely have a better start when going to school for the first time. It's a great sets them on a great path for lifelong learning.
So playgroups is like an adjunct to kindy or preschool? I mean, what's their relationship to that kind of part of the education system?
I think you could see it as giving children that kickstart they need before attending preschool or kindy. It can get them acquainted with those different environments, so that they enter this environment. They're there with mum and dad, or their parents are caregivers,
Right.
grandparents as well, taking kids along. So it gives them that good start to then make that transition into the environment of school or preschool.
I understand that. So in some ways, you have family around you like you would in the house, but in this case, it's in a social setting, but still with family.
Yeah, absolutely. All coming together to share the joys of learning, to make lifelong friends, have fun and play, and that's what it's all about. It's really about coming together in a community, getting away from the screens maybe, and that not so connected format of the social media.
I know that Playgroups Australia has recently been analysing the economic benefits of maintaining community playgroups. What can you tell us about the findings?
Yeah, absolutely. So we already know that investing in early childhood benefits everyone in the short term and the long term. So Playgroup Australia, that they saw an opportunity to look at the benefits of community playgroup, and we are often forgotten amongst the childcare and all the preschools. Now the research showed, and this is projecting forward over about a 10-year period, that investment in community playgroups has a net value of $584 million. It helps to improve the health, education and economic outcomes for the youngest citizens in Australia now and into the future. And that really comes around with the reduced costs for governments, and it frees up these resources for other purposes. And you think that would be quite attractive to our policymakers and politicians.
With regard to that, I'm intrigued in just drilling down a bit further in this finding of $584 million worth of value in the next 10 years. Based on what metrics? What are you looking at that you can split into the benefits of playgroup in early days?
Yeah, so it comes from, and I don't have the exact figures for you, but I can certainly send through the reports there. It looks at, say, reduced costs in child protection based on coming together and having that connection and reducing that. It's reduced costs in intervention in health and education outcomes,
Right.
which if we don't get it right at the start, then we're setting ourselves up for greater expense over the long term, short and long term, for all of those very important areas. So the 584 comes from looking at what it costs, and of obviously what the total benefits are. You minus the costs from the total benefits, and they arrive at that figure of 584 million. Of course, there are some very smart economists out there who use a whole variety of metrics to come up with these figures that we see today.
I'm going to come back to some of the other benefits that radiate out from all playgroups in a moment, Craig, but I'd like to welcome in our second guest as well. Ellie Bahnisch is a community playgroup volunteer facilitator for the town of Lobethal in South Australia. Ellie, hello. Welcome to Life Matters.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. We've just been discussing with Craig, the general benefits that flow out of playgroup, but you know full well at your individual level what it's done for the town of Lobethal. Do you want to tell us what happened in the wake of those dreadful bushfires 2019, 2020?
Yeah, so we obviously had a really tough time. We had the bushfire that took a lot of our community's buildings, businesses, houses. Even just for the little people, seeing the fire scar after that was just a lot for them. But we came together as a community and thought, well, we need to be able to support not only the children in the community, but also the families. So we started running the playgroup again, actually from my house, and we just thought it was so important to find a green space that the children could come and play and be together, and the families could come together and talk and kind of heal through, that disaster too.
Because as we've heard there from Craig, and it kind of makes sense here, Ellie, that when you have families turning up with young children in the wake of trauma like that, it's kind of like social therapy.
Oh, 100%. We found that, our numbers increased. We had probably 10 to 12 families that were consistently coming before the fire, and our first session back, we had 40 people here. It was just incredible to see so many people come together, just talking everything through, supporting each other, supporting the children, the children forming those relationships with each other through the trauma as well. It was really special, actually, to be a part of it.
Ellie, did you notice, as someone whose whole house is being thrown over to 40 people in a playgroup, that there were really vital conversations about hard topics coming up between parents as the children played?
Yeah, 100%. People, we had quite a few families attending that had actually lost their homes. So there were people that, it was just great to see the sense of community. People who had never met before were making these connections and, starting to have these conversations of support. And, it was a real therapy building, situation to be in. People could rely on each other. That shared experience of being through something like that, you can't get that anywhere else. You need your community to pull together.
Yeah, especially when, because your livelihood and your house may have been so profoundly affected, it's very hard to have the financial wherewithal to seek support elsewhere. And here's the community just rising to the fore. 18 months on from those fires and then the establishment of your playgroup in Lobethal, how are things going?
Yeah, amazing. Still, we've still got great numbers here. I think because COVID, of course, has affected people's ability to go out and do other activities with their children. Coming within your community, not having that external threat of COVID has been really great too. With the support of Primary Health Networks and Playgroup SA, we've also been able to establish a community garden at our site, which has really been valuable for our kids as well. They can go get their hands dirty, and families come, wider community come and drop things off for our, for everyone to come and, access as well. It's been really great.
Ellie, has the Playgroups Centre moved out of your house?
Yes, it did after COVID. It went back, thank goodness, to the kindy, which has been great because it just has that continuation of care. Our community kids go to the playgroup with their parents or caregivers at the kindy, and then when it's time, they've already formed that connection with the space and with some of the educators. And it's an easier transition into, their early learning.
That's great to hear, Ellie. Thank you so much for that. Craig, I just want to come back to you because how do playgroups play a role in the support of families on low incomes and also families who may have children with special needs?
Yeah, so there's a number of different playgroup models. So we tend to take that traditional community playgroup model where we're supporting the volunteers, but we actually then bring in a paid facilitator who might have a background in working in disability and education qualifications in early childhood, so to speak. And then we'll look at specific target groups, and we design a program which is going to be able to, address some of those needs, additional needs that children and families have. Because what we know, particularly for families and parents and caregivers, let's say your child has been diagnosed with any type of disability, there can be a bit of grief and loss associated with that. So as much as it's important to give the children the opportunities to come together, it's just as important to ensure the parents are connected. Now, there is a great program, and in fact, Ellie, who we've just heard on the line, she actually facilitates one of our programs called POWERS, which is all about bringing together children who have a disability and children who don't have a disability. So they come together. There's usually about 10 families, and then we fund a cultural, sport or rec activity or organisation to come in, and they travel around Metro Adelaide. They might go and do some swimming or some pottering around where they're painting pottery or making things with pottery. And what we've seen is, an opportunity for these parents to come together and form relationships which, if we weren't putting these kind of programs in place, they probably wouldn't have that opportunity to actually happen.
Ellie Bahnisch, as Craig just pointed out, you're helping to coordinate this kind of relationship between children who may have special needs or might have disabilities and those who do not have disabilities. What are you seeing in terms of interaction in those playgroups that you're helping out there?
Yeah, it's a great program. We have a basically 50-50 mix of children with disability and without. And we're just finding the relationships between all the children are just incredible. You know, we have the opportunity with this funding to be able to go out and take these families to do, some experiences that maybe they wouldn't be comfortable doing without this structure. And the shared experience is really drawing everyone together. You know, they are catching up outside of playgroup sessions.
Great.
It's just really great. It's a well-supported, well-thought-out program.
And of course, this is so vital, isn't it? Because when you have that kind of integration of people with differing needs at that level of age group, it becomes normalised, it becomes acceptance, it becomes understanding and kindness and cooperation at a level that will only radiate out through the rest of their lives.
Yes, 100%. The children, they have, we've got one little boy who uses a walker. The children just think it's great. You know, he shares it with them. They are completely accepting it's just Max. That's just Max, and that's how he is, and they love him for who he is. It's not anything different, and it's just so great to see that at such a young age, to just that full acceptance is just incredible.
Ellie, I might ask you, as we wind this to a close, for those communities that might be without playgroups and might not have the wherewithal financially to set up anything very complicated, is it a hard ask for a community to get a playgroup together?
Absolutely not. So a lot of the communities, their kindergartens and stuff are able to allow a space. But Playgroup SA are incredibly supportive with that. So everyone, or Playgroup Australia on the wider sense, you can just call your local playgroup, SA or whichever state, and they can direct you how to set it up. It's quite easy. It's not a lot of money. It doesn't cost me anything out of my pocket to facilitate our local playgroup, and it's a great thing to do for your community.
We've had a pretty bleak week as a nation. It's great to hear so much hope and optimism coming out of, what can happen at a grassroots community level for all our children. So, Ellie Bahnisch, Craig Bradbrook, thank you both very much indeed. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. See ya.
Craig, bye-bye there. Craig Bradbrook is the CEO of Playgroups SA, and you also heard from Ellie Bahnisch, the Community Playgroup Volunteer Facilitator. They say it takes a village to raise a child.